All right, so today I want to just share something that I've been studying for years, and I watched a few videos online. Just one that really might help clear up some of the things that I want to talk about today is Ken Corkland's video on Daniel 11. It can be found at Talking Rock Sabbath Chapel. Um, anyway, so the first point that I want to make here is, see, I have two Bible views. The one on the top is the one I'm going to be using first, so I want to just make that bigger. And it's Matthew 24. And so what I did was compare um, Matthew 24 with Mark 13 and Luke 21. Now I found something in Matthew 24 that I want to show you that cannot be found quite like this in the other two Gospels that have this prophecy. So it says, look, take heed that no man deceive you, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many, and you shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in different places. Oops. All these are the beginning of sorrows. So all those things that I just read about, all of those things, they will start happening all together. But notice what it says in verse 9, then. So these will all happen then. Will happen persecution, and verse 10 again, and then shall many be offended, and many false prophets shall rise, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness. And then shall the end come. When ye, therefore, so that's now the end of the sequence of events. The sequence is right there. Maybe not perfect, but it's right there. It takes a little studying. Now, what I did was I compared that with some other scriptures. And so, the destruction of Jerusalem I see as a parallel of Revelation chapter 18. And verses 4 and 5. Take heed that no man deceive you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. That, I think, refers to like televangelists, many leaders in many different denominations. I don't think it's limited to just a few. And I think it refers to the overthrow of Protestantism. And I think we need to pay close attention to that. However, verse 6 and 7, and you shall hear of wars, rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences, earthquakes in different places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. So these are the things that lead you up to persecution, because you'll see there in verse 9 there's persecution. And these, I think, go parallel with Daniel chapter 11 I'm going to go read the verses that I'm talking about. Starting in verse 40. And at the time of the end shall the king of the south push at him, and the king of the north shall come against him like a whirlwind being the same as a tornado, with chariots and with horsemen, with many ships, and he shall enter into the countries, and shall overflow and pass over. And he shall enter also into the glorious land, and many countries shall be overthrown, but these shall escape out of his hand, even Edom, Moab, and the chief of the children of Ammon. Now, if you look at these three right here, Edom, Moab, and Ammon, they are essentially modern-day Jordan. Let me go back first. Let me show you something. Well, let me just explain it, and about the king of the north and who it must be. The first thing that I want to point out in Daniel chapter 2, there's a great image, and it says the order is Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, Rome, Turkey, and the second coming of Christ. Or maybe Turkey's not there. And that's just my point. Everywhere else, it follows that same sequence of events. It says Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, Rome, and the second coming of Christ. That's repeated in chapter 7, chapter 8, chapter 9, and 11. All of them are identical, the sequence. Until you get to chapter 11, people want to throw in Turkey, because Uriah Smith did, and James White did. James White, can't remember exactly what but Stephen Haskell did. But anyway, the point that I want to make is that the king of the north, if it ever switches from Rome to somewhere else, then it's not following the blueprint of the book of Daniel. Secondly, France was the military power of the Vatican when France fulfilled part of the few last verses just before we come up to verse 40. Second, another issue that makes that it can't be Turkey, must be Rome. And that is, when you read chapter 8, there's a vision given. In the first few verses, there's a vision. After the first few verses, it refers to the vision again and again and again. Chapter 8 goes up to the crucifixion. Chapter 9 goes to the destruction of Jerusalem. But chapter 8 has a vision. In the vision, there's 2300-day prophecy. There is the 2300-day prophecy given. Now, everywhere from Daniel 8 after that vision all the way to the end of the book, if there is a vision referred to, it is always the vision of Daniel chapter 8. Therefore, Daniel chapter 11, or rather 11 and 12, are a continuation and a fulfilling of Daniel chapter 8. And the king of the north cannot be anything but Rome. It's not even plausible after looking at all these factors. Because it's always, in chapter 11, I think in verse 13, 14 or so, actually let's go look, maybe it's in verse 11. Nope. Let's go down a little bit. Maybe 16 then. I don't know, but I will try to find it real quick. The robbers. wish I would have started here. Right there. It is verse 14. Also the robbers of thy people shall exalt themselves to establish division. They will establish division. The robbers, we know that they are the Romans. If you don't understand it, just get a hold of that book by Daniel Revelation. It's a PDF online for free. There's people reprinting it. And so anyway, this book, it explains that very well. It also explains how chapters 9 through the end are a continuation of chapter 8. I don't quite understand, but I think God hid this part from them because if everything is laid out for us clearly, we don't even have to study for ourselves. But so anyway, the robbers established division, and it must be Rome in verses 40 to 45. That is the king of the north. So anyway, let's continue here, and I'll explain a few more things that I found. Now, check this out. If you look at, and ye shall hear wars, rumors of wars, Matthew chapter 24, verses 6 and 7. That parallels, I think, with verse 40 and on, and I think that is the wars and rumors of wars. Anyway, check this out. In verse 44, we have some things that are very interesting. Oops, I went too far. There we go. That's verse 44. Let me actually just highlight it to show. So, but tidings out of the east and out of the north shall trouble him. Therefore he shall go forth with great fury to destroy and utterly make away many. Now, I want to just point out that according to the Bible, there's a sequence of events there, and well, let's just go back up here and let's go to Luke. And go to Luke 21. Now look at this. And it says, if I can find it here. So I should have made notes. So just be patient with me, please. Here. There's a principle here. But before all these, see verse 12 here? Notice that it says there will be persecution. Okay? Now notice what happens. And it shall turn to you for a testimony. This great testimony will go out as the latter rain. That's how I understand. That's what I believe he's talking about. But think about this. According to what I have heard, the tidings out of the east and out of the north come from, are the latter rain. However, notice this. According to that, this would cause the king of the north to go forth with great fury to destroy and utterly make away many. I don't quite think that's the right sequence, and here's what I think this is talking about instead. So anyway, here we have persecution and then the testimony. Here we have, well, I don't think this is talking about the latter rain. And I mean, just explain what I believe it is. Tidings out of the east and out of the north, I believe east being east of where Daniel was standing when he had this vision, which east would be China, and out of the north would be Russia. And so therefore there will be another great war. And after that war, or during it, I think it's going to be United Nations, not just the U.S., that shall plant the tabernacles of his palace between the seas and the glorious holy mountain. I think they're going to set up headquarters for the New World Order of some sort in Jerusalem. Yet New World Order will come to his end, the United States at the head of the New World Order, or of course it's really the United States is the military power, not the religious power. That would be the Pope. So, yet he shall come to his end, and none shall help him. So this would be the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet. And that actually makes more sense to me, because they all say when we see the abomination of desolation, then we're supposed to flee to the mountains. Get out to the country before then, but flee to the mountains after. And I'm going to address something a little bit different here too, because people talk about food storage. Should we do it? Should we not do it? Should we do it? Should we not do it? Is it a lack of faith? Is it lack of faith to not do it? Is it lack of faith to do it? Anyway, let me just point something out real quick. If you live out in the country and you have a big garden, you should have a year or so of food stored up in cans, jars, dried food in buckets and grains and stuff like that. And so you should have extra so that you can help others. And so storing food in the city, probably not going to help too much anyway, because it'll be taken from you and you'll have to leave it, stuff like that. But just for an economic crash, for those of us who are not very rich, having a couple 100 pounds of beans, grains and stuff, I mean, it's only, depending on the size of the family, it's only a few months of food. It's not, you're not prepping. What you are doing is making sure that, let's say you live paycheck to paycheck and something happens, you don't get paid for a couple months. Oh wait, I have food. That's what you're doing. I know it says not worry about what you'll eat tomorrow. That's not to undo common sense. That's not to undo the work of your brain. So I don't think anybody should have only a week or two of food in their house, regardless of whether this prophecy is here or not. That's there for economic reasons. That's there because you want to be reasonable with your family, make sure they don't go hungry if there is an issue. And so I'd be careful how little I do, while of course that's not going to lead you through all the way through the end. The day will come that's taken. So you're not trying to prepare yourself for the great time of trouble, the 7 last plagues. You're not trying to do that. And if you look at the video Sustainable Preparedness, I think they explain it fairly well. I can't say that I agree with everything because it's been a long time since I watched their videos, but I think they have a lot of practical advice though. And their main point is be a producer, not just a consumer. That way you can share the love when times get tough. And that's what Joseph did. And so anyway, we need to be ready for verse 45. I believe it's clearly setting up the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet. So I think we're waiting to see that happen. That's what we're looking for in a time to flee. Now, is there going to be struggles before then? Well, of course. If you look at Luke once again, actually, I have my Bible here, and let me just read it instead of picking it or looking it up there. It says in verse, no, it's not what I wanted. I'll read it anyway. It says, "And there shall be signs in the sun and the moon and the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring, men's hearts failing them for fear, for looking after those things which are coming on the earth, for the powers of heaven shall be shaken. Then shall they see the Son of Man." But there's another one that I wanted to point out as well in Luke chapter 21, and that is in verse 11. Luke 21 verse 11 says, "And great earthquakes shall be in different places, and famines and pestilences, and fearful sights and great signs shall there be from heaven." And so there's pestilences coming. There's problems with the economy, is what that's talking about, economy and health. And so we need to look at what we need to do and what we can do to stay healthy and to share with others. So the health message is also important right in there, because it'll help people understand that this is partially a result of turning away from the laws of health. And you know, I'm not the only one. We've all seen people go into the restroom, in public restrooms, when we go there, and they don't wash their hands. And I mean, and I'm talking about not just going to the stall where you stand up, but the other one as well. And so it's like, well, you should wash your hands, you know. It's unclean. It's filthy. And then you look at the food that people eat. There's a reason why the coronavirus is hitting people so hard. And I thought actually for a while it wouldn't be worse than the common flu. And so obviously it is some worse, who knows how much. But it's made a lot worse by our diets and our lazy lifestyles. And so we should be ready to help. We should be ready to encourage and things. So one of my points is, we're not looking just for a coronavirus. We're not looking for, I mean, that's not the abomination of desolation. That's not what we're looking for. Oh, now I have to flee and this is now it. Look at this. Going back up to verse 8. All these are the beginning of sorrows. But if just before that, think about what we just read. Pestilences. That's what this is. And look at this. Pestilences is disease and pest. That's what the coronavirus is, part of that. Okay? So that's what I'm trying to say, is we're not quite here, we're here. But the other thing to notice is that if you look at Matthew chapter 24 and verses 6 and 7, it's worded in such a way that it kind of makes it sound like, then as a result of these things that just happened, then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted and shall kill you, meaning that it'll be blamed, at least in part, upon the true followers of Christ. And so I think we should look at Daniel 11 again with an open mind. And I highly recommend the video by Ken Cortland. It's just called Daniel 11. Just search it on YouTube. And yeah, enjoy. I hope this was helpful to someone. May God bless you.